Hi everyone, I'm going to do a short video all around phonics explaining how we teach it at school and the activities that you can do with your child at home to further support them with their learning. So phonics is all based around learning the sounds that all of our letters make and how they can help us when we're learning how to read and write. So we use a letters and sound framework in school. You can access this online, you can search it quite easily to download, and then we follow through the system, how it's set out in letters and sounds, but we use rewriting resources to help with our teaching. So we begin in letters and sounds with different phases. So the first phase we come to is phase 1, and that's where we start and just listen to sounds, everyday sounds like the sound of a toaster, the sound of your hairdryer, and just getting them to first start to hear different sounds. And then we go on to rhyme, so learning what rhyme is, and a lot of the time we sing lots of nursery rhymes, listen to rhyming stories, and we see if the children can spot the rhyming words and then create a rhyming string. So can they listen to words like cat, rat, and realise that they rhyme? The ending of those words sound a little bit the same, and then we go on to seeing if they can make a longer string, so rat, cat, hat, sat. And then in the classroom we'd have activities like these over here where we'd ask the children to see if they can find the odd one out. So they've got jug, rug and slug as the rhyming words, but can they spot that cat is the word in there that doesn't rhyme? And then after we've gone through phase 1, we then go on to phase 2, which is when we go through all of the alphabet and we find out about the sounds that each of the alphabet letters make. So it's really important to learn the letter name, but we then go through and learn about the sound that each of the letters make. We don't follow it through the alphabet in order, so we go through in the letter order of the letters that we use most frequently. So this week your child will have learnt about the S, A, T, P and I, and learn each of the sounds that those make. And today's letter was I, so it was an I for his name, but the sound he makes is an I sound. And on the back we always have the action and the rhyme that we go I for insect. So each of the letters has their own action and their own rhyme. All of these you can find in your reading diaries, which I'll show you at the end. And we're going to also include in your resource pack a list of all of the rhymes and the actions so that you can support your child at home. So in phase 2 we'll continue all the way through all of the alphabet, learning all of the sounds that they make. And then once we've gone through phase 2, we go on to phase 3, which is when we learn about digraphs. And a digraph is when two letters are working together to make one sound. We use all this terminology with the children as well, and they do pick it up, and you will find your children will come home and talk about digraphs and explain what they are with yourselves at home. So we go on to digraphs like R, and we learn that R is start the car, and we pretend to drive. So we say start the car, and all these rhymes just help the children to learn and remember and recognise the digraphs. So again, if I just go back, we look at the A and the they're not making their individual sounds, they're working together and they're making one sound, R. And then once we've gone through all the digraphs, in phase 3 also there are trigraphs, so that's when 3 letters work together to make one sound. And this one we would say is air, and we go air, that's not fair. And if we turn it over, there's always a picture clue to support the children as well. So just going back, you've got your digraph, which is 2 letters that make one sound, and then you've got your trigraph, which is when 3 letters work together to make one sound. And again, you wouldn't segment it, you wouldn't say because that wouldn't make sense. You would look at that together and the children learn that that is air. So that's phase 3, and then when we go on to phase 4, that's when you learn words like, with your beginning blends and your end blends, which if I go over here, it's words like frog. It's when the you can hear both of the sounds, so you wouldn't say that they're a digraph because you can hear the individual sounds, but they're just closely working together. They're blending together, so it's frog. Okay, so what we would do as well when we go through each of the phases, we learn how to recognise the sounds, then we begin to read the sounds in words. So if I go through, these are 2 ideas in phase 2 for CBC words. So we've got here, we would go k, a, t to read this word here. We'd say that we've got our sound buttons underneath and we would go k, at, cat. And your child will come home and they'll do a lot of this with their arms. We call this segmenting. We say we chop up a word, so we go k, at, and then we would blend it together. It's really important to make sure they blend that word back together to make sure they know what it says. So k, at, cat. And the same underneath here is op, mop, op, mop. And we try to really, when we go through phase 2 and introduce each of the sounds, we try to make sure that the children articulate the sound and just the soul sound, so saying for an M. So it's not a M, We have to really be careful in making sure that we say it correctly, so it's a sound, oh, p. Some of the sounds are air sounds, and it is quite common for us to say p, but we really need to be careful when we model with the children, we say p, so that they can, if they say p and they come to write that sound, they sometimes put other sounds at the end of that word as well, which they're trying to hear as well as just hearing the p sound. So again, when we go to the phase 3 words, this word here, if the child was come to read chip, they would go ch, ip, for chip, so they go ch, ip, chip. And same for if they came to read the word night, a child would go I, t, for night. Because if we tried to segment the whole trigraph, the child can't hear the sounds in that word to help them blend it together. By doing the sound buttons, it just helps the children to hear all of the sounds in the word and blend them much better together. And same for frog, we would teach them then for og, og, frog. So that's how we read all of the sounds. And when you notice in your children's homework that will come home, you'll see lots of activities where there might be sound buttons underneath, and then if it's the line, it's just showing the children that those letters are making one sound, so we don't chop them up. It's just another visual aid that we use with the children. If I come back over here, I've just laid out some activities and suggestions for things that we do. So coming back through the phases, we do lots of just reading a single word and matching to a visual. It's really important to have visual alongside, and then we've got simple captions to then match to a picture, and then we build it up so that then it's the children are understanding what they've read. So then we've got yes and no questions to see if they can answer. And then when we're going on to spelling, when we begin to start and spell, we start and use phoneme frames because it just breaks up. The children can visually see how many sounds are in that word. Fan. And we go through all of these activities within all of the phases, so the activity will slightly change. And same as when I come to the sound buttons that I showed you before, just visual again so that they can see p, egg, oh no it's not a peg, d, og, yes it's a dog, t, app, no it's not a tap. So it's just to show the segmenting and the blending, and again, words that we will use with the children will tell the children that they are segmenting and they're blending, and they soon pick it up and it does make sense to the children. And then in each of the phases, as we go through, each phase will have their own bank of what we call common exception words. We say that they're tricky because you can't segment them, you can't chop them up. So if you chop them up, they don't make sense. So in phase 2, one of the tricky words that we will come to is no. And if we were to segment it, it would be n, o, no. And that doesn't make sense. So we just learned that tricky words are words that we have to just look at and read them without segmenting them. We just have to remember them. And we have a bank of words in each of the phases. So in each phase 2, 3, 4, and as we go through, there are actually 6 phases in phonics. Each of the ones will have their own bank of tricky words. You can find all of these tricky words in your reading diary again, so that if you ever wanted to support your child or make games or create games or spot these tricky words in your reading books, you could then know which ones you're looking for in your child's phase. And then also, if I go through in your reading diary, you've also got the visuals for each of the rhymes and the actions for the letters of the alphabet. And then it also goes on to the digraphs and trigraphs as well. So again, it's just handy that when you get your homework, you know what sounds we're focusing on that week, and then you could get this out with your child if you're reading at home, and then say, oh, I know you've been learning about the S sound today, you've learned about S. Let's see if we can find it in your reading book. And it's just ways that then we can keep you informed of what we're doing in school, especially with how things are at the minute. And then as we go through the digraphs and trigraphs as well, it's just got further visuals for each of them again. And when I mentioned the resource pack earlier, we'll also have a list of the further ones and further examples for the activities that you can do with your children. So that is just a whistle-stop tour around phonics. So at the minute your children are sending home the letters that they're learning this week, and as we go through all of the alphabet, once we've got to the end of the alphabet, then the phonics homework will slightly change, and it will be lots of ways that we can support with segmenting and blending as we keep going through the different phases, introducing different tricky words with you and sharing those at home. And that will all be then put on the website. So once we've gone through all these sheets that are coming home in your yellow folders, the rest of them will be uploaded onto your class website, or class page on the website, where you can download that from there. And then again, any questions or anything like that, you can then email your class teacher on the class email. Okay, thank you.